Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. After concluding a first round of talks in Oman over Tehran's nuclear program, Iran and the United States are looking ahead towards a second round of discussions likely to be held in Rome. Both countries had described the first meeting as constructive, with the United States hailing the direct communication as being key to striking a possible deal. It was the highest level engagement between the two nations since 2018, when President Donald Trump pulled the United States out of the 2015 nuclear agreement between Iran and the world powers during his first term in office. So how significant are these direct discussions in establishing a deal between both sides, one that each side will be willing to accept? That's what we're going to get perspectives on from two distinguished guests. So let me begin the program by introducing the guest to you. I'm pleased to welcome Ambassador D.P. Srivastava. He was the Indian ambassador to Iran between 2011 to 2015. He's currently a distinguished fellow at Vivekanand International Foundation. Ambassador, thank you for your time. Welcome to Sansad TV. Also joining us is Dr. Rajiv Nayan, Senior Research Associate at Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis. Dr. Nayan, glad to have you with us on this broadcast as well.
Yes.
Ambassador, your thoughts first on how crucial these direct talks are between officials of the US and Iran, especially in determining whether a deal between both countries can be made in the times to come or not.
Dialogue is always preferable to confrontation, and you have to see it against the background of increasing rhetoric from about going to war. These discussions are not direct. Iran claims that they are being conducted through Omanese mediation. US says they are direct. Whatever be the format, the talks are significant in finding a way out of the impasse. As you mentioned earlier, US pulled out of the nuclear deal, which was negotiated under President Obama. That has led to rise of tensions, and resumption of talks between the two sides might be perhaps a way out. It's early stage to say that the talks will succeed, but the first round has ended with both sides expressing satisfaction. So let's keep our fingers crossed. I may also mention that to understand significance of the talks, you have to look at the map. This region is in India's close proximity.
Right.
This is also the region from where 17% of world crude supplies come. So any conflagration would result in major hike in oil prices. $1 increase in oil price adds something like 14,000 crores to India's annual import bill. So it's significant for India. It's significant for all the countries. And let's hope that the talks lead to early result and a successful conclusion.
Certainly. So the second round of talks are slated to be held sometime later this week. Dr. Nayan, what do you make of the first round of talks that have taken place? Both sides have hailed it, especially because this is the first direct negotiation that is happening between officials of both countries. But as far as the negotiations are concerned, both sides still stand far apart. Also, the fact that there are enduring sticking points that remain in the wake of the statements also that have been made by US President Donald Trump just ahead of the negotiations in Oman. How do you look at the entire scenario? Is there optimism in the days to come?
I'll start with your last observation. Yes, with optimism. And the very fact that President Obama agreed to negotiate or talk to Iran and talk to Iran on nuclear issues is a matter of a great optimism for the world. So yes, I see it with a great degree of optimism. Mm-hmm. Now coming back to many of the issues which you have raised in your statements, I think 2 or 3 I think I have picked up. One thing, definitely it's a very, as Iranian Foreign Minister Arachi, who's a veteran of negotiation on nuclear issues, pointed out, it's a constructive talk. It had just begun, and my entire observation on this this round of talk, or the coming rounds of talks, emanate from the very idea of optimism. I reiterate, and hopefully I'm not that pessimist, and I think that they all know what other side will agree to and what other side will not agree to. So I think with this realistic framework expectations, they will start the next rounds, you may say, of negotiations. First, is Iran going to transfer all its enriched uranium to the third party? This is one issue which is coming up, and which many are expecting that it will go to Russia. So with Russia, I don't think Iran will have problem, but it will not give up so easily. So it will stick to it, but once it is really put under pressure, then it may agree to that. I think that is not an issue. Second is, will it stop enriching uranium? I don't think it will not do that. It has got scientific expertise, and it demonstrated that it can enrich up to the weapon level, although it has somehow stopped at 60% of 60% of enrichment. Although Arms Control Association says that it had enriched up to 83 point some percent, but this is unverified claim. But it has enriched at a higher stage, and it had the capability to do that. And even it had the capability to do so even before JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, was concluded, negotiated, whatever you call it, in 2015. But somehow Iran exercised restraint, and it did not cross that Rubicon, which you say can to go for nuclearization or weaponization. So it has exercised utmost restraint. So that we must acknowledge. The world must acknowledge somehow whatever you can complex or responsible behavior of Iran. But the fact is that yes, it had done so. Now it comes the issue about missiles. I think the other side, or you can say the non-Iranian side, also knows that it has got very advanced capability of missile, and it will not give up, and it will keep it there, because it relates to not just the nuclear delivery capability. Recently we saw, whether it was in the Ukrainian theater or in the Gaza theater, whatever you call it, Israeli theater, that missiles have emerged as an important instrument of warfare. Earlier, it was generally conceived as an instrument, or you can weapon of nuclear delivery. So somehow that image has been diluted. So now Iran will argue that it is not necessary that it will just use it for delivery of nuclear weapons. It may use it for conventional delivery of conventional weaponry. So that is the fact. Now comes that, what sanctions? So sanctions, I think they are also working out. Many developments are taking place, insurance to many other things, whether $6 billion Iranian money parked in the Oman bank will be released or not. So that is, again, that will be another, or you can say, next steps where they can discuss about it. But broadly, I will say, I am optimist of having having a deal between whatever party you say. Now it may have become 7 parties, 8 parties, because Rome has also been brought in. Meloni is also going to help.
Right.
Maybe a couple of other parties may join in. That is a different matter. Those are inconsequential matters. But something will come out, and it seems that even Trump wants reduction of tension in that region, West Asia, you can call it, Middle East, whatever you like to call it. But there's
in fact, that leads me to that interesting question, Ambassador, because we've seen a change in stance of the US President Donald Trump, because Iran, as the world knows, is an unfinished business from President Trump's first term. And that's why within days of his inauguration this year, he restored his former policy of sort of applying maximum pressure on Iran. So as a result, we saw that in early February, on the 4th of February, President Trump did sign a memorandum ordering the US Treasury to impose further sanctions on Iran. At the same time, punish countries who are violating the existing sanctions and those who are buying the Iranian oil. So help us and our viewers understand what explains the move to, in a way, match this economic pressure on Iran now with diplomacy.
You have to keep in mind President Trump's favorite phrase, the art of diplomacy. And he believes this includes increasing pressure on the opponent till he changes course. Let me add a caveat. You mentioned that Trump started with some strong position against Iran, but President Trump, or rather candidate Trump, in September 2024, just 2 months before he got elected, made two interesting observations. He ruled out war and he ruled out regime change. And this was also reiterated by the vice presidential candidate, and now both are in office. And this statement has been reiterated since. So this is what gives optimism. And this also tells you of the direction in which he has moved. There is no contradiction. It's part of the same strategy, that is increase pressure, but stop short of going to war. And this is as I mentioned earlier, diplomacy is always preferable to going to war.
Okay, Dr. Nayan, the current scenario is, even though we're seeing sort of a strategy of economic pressure along with diplomacy on part of the United States, President Trump has also categorically said that if the talks fail, if there is no deal, it's going to be trouble for Iran. At the same time, we heard the Iranian side say that they are insisting on not dismantling the entire nuclear program, but limiting it. Now, that is where I said that both sides stand quite apart as far as the negotiations are concerned. In such a scenario, even though we are optimistic, it is in the larger global interest. The regional tensions will also de-escalate if there is a deal. But if both sides stand on two extreme positions, how is a middle way or a middle path going to be something that we are all expecting? How are they going to reach that middle path?
First of all, both sides know each other quite well. Both sides know each other's position quite well. And both sides had negotiated in the past also. And in fact, JCPOA, 2015 JCPOA, United States was a party to it. And President Trump abandoned it, dumped it, sabotaged it, whatever you would like to call it, in 2018. But all know, the world knows. I know, you know, everyone knows what are the positions of both the sides. So that's there. Now you're coming to the Trumpian, as Ambassador very rightly pointed out, Trump has got his own style. And he raises the stakes, and then thereafter he comes down. We saw it in the context of relation to tariff. Put 30%, then came down to 10%, then he made all the noises, and he is a good negotiator. He's a businessman. He knows that, and plus at the same time he's a president of the most powerful country of the world. Whatever, arguably I can say, or you can debate, but United States is definitely a very powerful country. So he wants to use that strength, that position, and maximize his position so that at least there is some midway. And Iranian also understands it. So you can say that they are poles apart. That's fine. Position for positioning, for gesturing, for posturing, yes, they are poles apart. But both know where they can come together, where the points of convergence may come, and the little bit of, say, give and take will be there. If in place of 3.67% of enriched uranium, there could be 3.5, or there could be 3, there could be 4, or there could be 2, but something on around that point, the negotiation or conclusion and agreement will be done.
Okay.
And they
Let me understand, because Ambassador Srivastava has stayed there in Iran for 4 years. He negotiated the Chabahar deal as well. Ambassador, knowing the Iranian side, and given the economic situation of Iran at the moment, it's in dire straits. Inflation has soared, their currency has plunged to a low level. Would you expect Iran to climb down from its position and work towards getting the sanctions lifted?
You mentioned the first half of your statement that it has a very difficult economic situation. And that is that is one of the reasons for Iran to search for accommodation. Okay. And there, of course, there's the experience of a bad deal last time, as the Supreme Leader said that, and the Iranians point out, US withdrew from the agreement which the previous president had signed along with P5 members. So that memory creates a certain degree of skepticism or caution. But at the same time, Iran itself has said that they don't want to produce nuclear weapons. So that is hope that they would agree to a deal in which perhaps there will be lowering of the enrichment level, not dismantling of the program, and in exchange the sanctions will be lifted. And the Iranian expectation will be that this time there will be genuine lifting of US sanctions, because the last time around, even after the deal, the US companies could not do business with Iran. And I think in order to ensure that this time around the deal is longer lasting, one of the expectations will be to move towards normalization of relations. And there's a strong incentive for them because of the economic situation that they are facing. At the same time, US knows that military solution is not realistic. And in fact, President Trump, or rather candidate Trump, had said this earlier. And the last, over the course of last year, in April and in August 2024, there were missile exchanges, which have shown the Iranian capability, and which has shown how dire the situation could be. So there are reasons for both sides to search for middle ground, and I think it is possible to find one where neither side loses face. To quote a Persian saying, "Bazi both," a win-win solution, and that is what I think they'll try to reach.
Dr. Nayan, how concerning is the fact that when this deal, the Iran nuclear deal, was signed in 2015 to now, when we are talking 10 years later, the concern globally is that scientists in Iran now know more about how to make a nuclear weapon than they did 10 years ago. Also the fact that 2018, when President Trump pulled the US out of that agreement, from then to now, Iran has enhanced its Ukraine enrichment levels to about 60%, if I'm not wrong. That's what the IAEA says. So how concerning is all of that amid the negotiations and despite the optimism that we expect from the discussions that are ongoing?
Not at all surprised. I mean, why? Actually, it is not the say the act of last 4 years or 5 years. Iran had mastered the capabilities long back, even before negotiating JCPOA. And JCPOA was a humiliating deal. When it came, we all were surprised. But we know, as you have also pointed out in the last segment, and that, at that time we were stunned why Iran agreed to it. It was, but now we all are stunned why America started negotiating with the same man who dumped the deal, and now he's talking about cutting a deal. So this is the two scenarios which we have to understand, and why it is coming up. So I don't think in last, say, 18 to 25, 7 years, or in fact, they started stating, I'll say, not even demonstrating, stating that they have got the capability to increase up to 60 level. They had the capabilities to increase up to weapon grade, but they did not do it, as I told in the first segment.
Right.
So they, as part of negotiation, as part of putting pressure on the United States and other Western countries, they kept announcing, now we have enriched up to 40%, 45%, 60%, and now they say they can build bomb. It's matter I when people say that matter of months, I say it's matter of weeks when they can really achieve the task, but they are not doing it. So that part actually the world must acknowledge and world must appreciate and appreciate Iranian gesture. And I think we should help, or we should the world. I already world has welcomed. Or I was going through all the countries which had welcomed the deal, and it is really we all want that there should be a deal. And President Trump also understands that. Okay, now they had surprised. I generally I call that network Islamic network. The Islamic, they are no longer dependent on the Soviet design for their ballistic missiles development, or even drones development. So now they have already got their own framework, and many of the scientists, I will not say just Iranian scientists, but scientists from that region, from the Islamic bloc, I would say, had been eliminated by unknown
605.
and those elements are generally thought of coming from Israel and Western countries, and so they mastered the art. So now they have got their own indigenous capability, and this proliferation, you can say, or a spread, whatever you like to call it, in the missile domain, which they are really coming up quite fast, and they may transfer it to other countries also. So the world, especially United States, uh, when it talks about stemming the proliferation, needs to be worried about. I think it is worried about that part of proliferation because it
Absolutely.
is.
In fact, I just got the numbers. The IAEA had said that by March 2025, Iran had around 275 kg of uranium enriched to 60%. And it said if enriched further, that amount could possibly enough to make about 6 nuclear weapons. So, Ambassador, amid these concerns and the complications involved in the negotiations, despite the optimism that we spoke about earlier on in the program, what if the talks fail? What does it mean for the region and for the world order?
I would treat this as a hypothetical question. As I have pointed out earlier, both sides have very strong reasons to reach a deal. Iran needs sanctions to be lifted because it is an export-oriented economy, and its objectives are already met. It has demonstrated the capacity, and it has stated it doesn't want the bomb. So if it wanted to have what is called recessed deterrence, it has already achieved. That is a demonstrated capacity to make the bomb. And from the US side also, they know that military solution is not feasible. Iran is too large a country. So I'm quite optimistic that despite all the problems, they will find a solution. But in case, let's take it hypothetically, the talks fail, there will be very sharp escalation in the region. There are already reports that Iran has warned its neighboring countries in the Gulf that if they cooperate with the US in any war effort, there will be consequences. And as I mentioned at the outset, Hormuz Strait accounts for 17 to 20% of crude supply. And this large quantity cannot be replaced. So there's bound to be very sharp escalation in oil prices, which will have an effect on the global economy, which is already, teetering on the verge of recession. So the consequences, both in economic terms and military terms, of any failure in talks are quite dire for all sides concerned.
Absolutely. Dr. Nayan, I'll take one last question from you, perhaps on the same hypothetical question, because if the talks succeed, it's beneficial for not just both countries, for the entire region, for the world order, as Ambassador rightly said. But 1%, if the talks fail, given the extreme sides that both sides are still on, if we don't expect a climb down in position from Iran, if President Trump continues to put that economic pressure, and if he continues to threaten Iran, in that kind of a situation, if the talks fail, can the world at this point in time afford another escalation in tensions in the Middle Eastern region?
Look, we did not expect this talk to happen so soon. So now this talk has begun. So I think let us start with that. Suppose this talk fails. So I think that is nothing surprising if it fails, but I will not say it is a permanent failure. It will be failure because of the posturing, the negotiating positions of both the sides. So if it fails, like next week, they are again on Saturday, they are going to meet in Rome. So it may not have some concrete, say, outcomes. So how do you define a failure? So that is the first question which we have to think about. Okay. Suppose they don't have any agreement. Fine. Again, they will talk. So President Trump has given 6 months. So for 6 months, we will have to wait. Thereafter, again, they will talk to many countries, and these countries will talk to United States that, yeah, okay, so this is the situation, that is the situation. That's fine. So I think that in these situations, talks may slip over to, or you may say, there will be pilferage, and Russia may take the lead, because Russia is also emerging a very good partner of United States and suppose there is a deal between Ukraine and Russia over ending the war. So there could be some partners, they will be talking. United States will not be talking, other parties will be talking, and they will be asking Trump to just cool down, don't attack Iran, or they may attack, if suppose they attack Iran. I am saying even let us build that scenario also.
Okay. So as a country which is always on the side of peace, let's end the program on that note of optimism. At least the talks have begun. Significant welcome step towards establishing a deal between the United States and Iran, which is waiting to happen for larger global peace. Let's all keep our fingers crossed and expect some positive outcome from the second round of talks that are slated to take place in the days to come, perhaps in Rome. The venue is yet to be finalized, but that's not important. What's important is that both sides are now engaged in direct communication, and which is key to moving towards having a concrete deal. So on that note, I'll have to wind up the program. Time allows me to take up only that much on this edition of Perspective. Thank you once again, Ambassador Srivastava, Dr. Nayan, for your valuable time and your valuable insights as well. Thank you to you viewers as well for your time.
संसद टीवी के और भी प्रोग्राम्स देखने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा YouTube चैनल और हाँ, इन्हें लाइक और शेयर करना ना भूलें।